My name is Randy Willmon, and I'm 51 years old. Been married 31 years, a good part of my life. I have a wonderful wife named Michelle, and two sons, Garrett and Nolan, who are grown, and I have two and a half grandchildren, and life just been really good. Just been thoroughly blessed with my wife and kids and family. So I'm a firefighter, captain with the Dallas Fire Department. Been with Dallas 27 years, and just had a great career. And beginning of this year, started to had some a few little signs and symptoms where I couldn't eat and couldn't drink as well as I normally would. I went to the doctor and was prescribed some medicine for indigestion. Well, that didn't work, and about a week later they sent me in for an endoscopy, which is when they go down your throat checking for how your stomach is. So on February 12th, which is a day I'll never forget, of 2016, I woke up, and it was a Friday afternoon. I woke up from the procedure, and the doctor was showing me some pictures that didn't look normal, and I saw the word cancer and some other fancy words there, and my life pretty much changed from that moment. That was the phone call I got that sometimes, as we say, will put you on your knees. So we left the hospital that Friday afternoon with a fancy big word called Linitis plastica. Never heard that word. So what do we do in America when we get home? We Google that word. So after quite a few hours of reading about this type of cancer, a lot of fear set in because of the aggressiveness of it, and it likes to really spread out, and the prognosis was not really good. Again, that was in February. Based on what I was reading, I didn't really think I would probably be alive to midsummer based on what I had read. So that started my journey of cancer. I began reading. I was off work 5 months, sat on pretty much in the same spot during that time, very sick, couldn't eat. Ultimately, I lost 55 pounds in 4 months and during that time, trying to get a firm diagnosis when you get the endoscopy and they take tissue samples. So I got the original diagnosis on a Friday. Well, I got a call Tuesday morning saying it wasn't cancer. So again, I was shouting from the rooftops, hallelujah, but the doctor then, shortly after saying it wasn't cancer, reaffirmed that he felt it was still cancer. So this started a journey of almost being on a roller coaster of highs and lows at the beginning. I ended up having 4 endoscopies, with the first 3 saying no cancer or a different kind of cancer, possibly even leukemia. And then on the 4th one, I got a firm diagnosis back to the original cancer, Linitis plastica, the very aggressive, pretty rare form of cancer here in the United States. So I started, during that 6 weeks of not getting a firm diagnosis, I was doing a lot of reading in Job, which we tend to go to when we have trials and sufferings, which I'll also say in there, I hadn't had a whole lot at that point. Life's been very smooth, and God just really blessed us with so many things. So during this time, I really dug into Job, and then I had some wonderful books that, not being a big reader, but I read some wonderful books that God just speaks to you through song, through books, through people, of course. I reached out immediately to the church. I go to CCF, been a member at least 12 years or so. Strong group of men surrounded me and prayed over me for healing. So I had everything in place, but hadn't had a trial such as this or a storm to walk through. So fortunately, having family, friends, church members, men in my life, I can't imagine walking through this without them. So as my journey continued through that, especially that first 6 weeks of really being sick, not being able to eat or drink hardly anything, I began reading a lot, and I read a book called Through the Eyes of a Lion and the Lower Story book, and these are all great books where God was really speaking through me. And I never had any anger towards God. I never really spent a lot of time wondering how I got this cancer. Being a firefighter, that may be a cause, but I didn't spend a lot of time there. I did have a lot of fear at the beginning, especially with my family, with me being gone. as a man, as the provider, as the guy that pays the bills. I go into panic mode of I need to get a will. I need to tell my wife about how to pay these bills and all the passwords and all that stuff. So, and then the flip side of that would be the other emotion of not being here anymore. My grandkids not knowing me. So it was a range of emotion. Again, back to the roller coaster at the beginning of not having a firm diagnosis, and so anyway, when I initially got diagnosed on February 12th, and on April 2nd, I got a call confirming the diagnosis. I had read a bunch on natural treatments, had been prayed over so many times, and then what finally culminated is I read a book called Staying on the Trail Through Trials by local author Larry Mast, and a little short book that my good friend Ron Heineke dropped off, and I read it in one setting. It's not a very big book, and I'm not a big reader, and thank God it had big words. So I read this book, and Larry's story, he got diagnosed with cancer, and I'm not going to go into his whole story, but he had a God moment where these 5 beautiful indigo buntings showed up at a bird feeder. And if you know anything about birds, these are pretty rare birds. So as I finished this book, I walked over to the kitchen sink and looked out the window to our bird feeder, and there was not an indigo bunting, but in the same family was a painted bunting, one of the most beautiful birds I've ever seen here in Texas. So God had just blessed me with that moment of hearing his voice, and from that moment on, all Michelle and I heard was just follow me, walk with me daily. Do you trust me? And we did. And I wasn't going to worry about the summertime. I wasn't going to worry about next year. I wasn't going to worry about 10 years from now. We were just hearing, walk with me and trust me. So along with that started my journey through treatment, and I started chemo in April or May of 2016. And by this time I had again lost in the 50-something pound range, very sick. Started chemo. Doctors were very encouraged because of my age and my health, and went on a regimen of chemo. And of course I lost all my hair and didn't really like that, but so I found out what it was like to be bald, and I'm proud of my few little hairs I have now. So I started getting better. I remember the morning when I would scramble an egg and just hope to eat one egg, and then that led to 2. I hit 160 pounds, but I never saw the 150s. Started getting better, started putting on weight, getting more energy. Started doing a few things around the house. Again, through all this, I'm just surrounded. People dropping in by the house and encouraging me and praying over me. And Michelle and I were just covered with such a peace from God that we don't understand that kind of peace, and it only comes through God. So I just can't imagine trying to walk through this storm without having God's presence and without having his love, his unconditional love for us. God just showed up in ways so unimaginable for us, and he gave us that joy and peace during this crazy storm that we were walking through. So I've went through 3 months of pretty harsh chemo and had a lot of the side effects, but God just was always there every step of the way, and people being with me during the chemo room, from the nurses and the doctors, and such a positive thing in what most people would see as very difficult circumstances. So whatever storm people go through, I just have one storm, and of course you read a book and you realize my storm isn't near as bad as other people's storms, and we try not to categorize those storms. So, but this storm, and there's lots of people walking through this with me, my parents and my kids and my grandkids. It touches a lot of different people. So, but God's good. He's so good, and he just walked with us every step of the way through this. I love the Lord, and it was just a time where the rubber meets the road. As a believer, again, for 30 plus years, that was the moment when God just said, do you trust me? So we trust in him. We're walking through him. But I've gained 30-something pounds back at a good feel really good. Over the last 6 months, we've built a house. So again, I just can't say how much walking with God daily, one day at a time. That's the way we've chose to live, and not worry about tomorrow or next year, or next month, or 10 years from now. It's been a great journey. God's good. This is all about the Lord, because it's not about me. It's not about what my family's going through. It's about everybody else that sees you walking through the storm. And are you still going to be that guy that loves the Lord and goes to church on Sunday, or are you going to be the guy that turns away and goes, why me? There's this unspeakable joy, I guess, that God just, it's hard to even describe it without walking through the storm. And I know many people are going through their own storms, and I just can't encourage you enough to dig in and to trust the Lord, and He will bless you with that unspeakable joy that I've had people just tell me over and over that they can't believe I'm happy and positive, and we're just living life. We're literally just living life daily and walking with God through that, through those moments, and we're just trusting Him with whatever He brings our way. We're just going to continue serving Him and loving Him and just thanking Him.